Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Early Tuesday morning, Auburn landing another commitment on the offensive line and former USC tackle Mason Murphy. You're sitting here Tuesday morning and you're suddenly feeling pretty dang solid about what this offensive line is going to be for Auburn in 2025. I mean, we hopped on Saturday morning, talked about the commitment to Jackson Arnold, and we kind of had significant question marks about the offensive line that Jackson Arnold would be working behind. And then you kind of fast forward Dylan Wade coming back for one more year, probably Auburn's best offensive lineman coming back in 2025. And then you go out and land a bona fide starting left tackle in Xavier Chaplin. There ain't many bona fide starting left tackles in the SEC. I think Xavier Chaplin was one of them. And then you fast forward to Tuesday morning, you land a guy that's played over 1,700 snaps at the Power 4 level at USC. Now, Mason Murphy has been a roller coaster at time, and quite frankly, I think he could be a really good guard for Auburn, and I'm kind of interested to see where they decide to play Mason Murphy. But at the end of the day, you've seen this guy start a full 2 seasons at the right tackle position. And if you're an Auburn fan, like it's hard to find guys that have started significant snaps at the Power 4 level at the tackle position in the transfer portal. Hugh Freeze, over the last 48 hours, has managed to land two of them in Xavier Chaplin and Mason Murphy. And you start playing around with, what this offensive line might be for Auburn. Feel really good about Xavier Chaplin at left tackle. You feel really good about Dylan Wade at left guard. You feel really good about Connor Lewis center. That left side of the offensive line, to me, I think you feel really good about. Then you start looking at the right side and say Mason Murphy could play tackle, but also could play guard. And you're suddenly not that concerned about what the starting five is going to be for Auburn. I don't even know if they're done yet. I mean, they cast their wet very wide in terms of offensive linemen in the transfer portal this portal window. So we'll see if they add another name. But at the very least, you're starting to build what is some really competitive depth within this offensive line. That's where it starts. All the best offensive lines that you see across the country, yes, they have a good starting five, but they got 6, 7, 8 guys that they feel good about playing. You get that healthy competition. And when you get a guy like Mason Murphy, who I think could play guard or tackle, it suddenly gets easier to put that puzzle together in terms of what is our best five offensive line grouping. It, you can't go wrong adding a guy with the experience that Mason Murphy has. Want to get into a little bit of what Mason Murphy brings, talk a little bit about what to expect from this Auburn offensive line in 2025. Now, before we get into it, as always, to the Auburn fans, it's been really fun talking about this program over the last couple of days. A lot of commitments to break down. The amount of support y'all continue to show to the boys has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into Mason Murphy, a guy that I have a lot of experience watching. Mason Murphy, when it comes to run blocking, I think is very good. And that's kind of why I want to see him or say that he could play guard at a high level when he's able to get hands on an opposing defensive lineman. If you were to put him in a phone booth and just let him get hands on defensive linemen, this is a guy that's very physically imposing. He's a powerful, powerful kid. Now, when you see him at right tackle and when you see him struggle at times, you see him struggle in space. You see him struggle with edge rushers that really can get off the line of scrimmage and attack that outside shoulder. I'm interested to see where Auburn tries to put Mason Murphy, and that probably depends on what Auburn gets in the transfer portal over the next couple of days and who decides to come back to this Auburn roster. But at the end of the day, he is certainly another piece that you can put to this offensive line. And again, I might think he's a better guard, but we've seen him play tackle at a high level. And if you can clean up some of the pass protection stuff, because that's normally where you kind of see the struggles for Mason Murphy, you start feeling better about it. When you look at last year, 517 pass pro opportunities, gave up 13 quarterback hurries, gave up 3 sacks. Those numbers are not elite in pass protection. I believe 27 quarterback pressures. But when he's asked to kind of road grade in the run game, I think he can do it at a high level. And I think he'd be a fine pass protector on the inside, kind of a little bit less space for him to operate in. We'll see where Auburn decides to go. But at the end of the day, when you have the ability and the opportunity to add a guy that has started 2 straight seasons at the Power 4 level, you normally wanna take it. And again, you start looking at this offensive line, and to me, it's starting one, it's really experienced, right? Xavier Chaplin, he's going to be a third-year starter. Dylan Wade has played a ton of football. Connor Lew, although only going into his junior year, has played a lot of football at the center position. Mason Murphy, over 1,700 career snaps. This offense is starting to come together. And we kind of said when Jackson Arnold committed to Auburn, if you give him the weapons around him, and we knew they had the weapons on the outside, right? Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons. That's a long list of difference makers in the pass catcher room. Potentially adding a guy like Eric Singleton. I look at the wide receiver room and say, I'm not concerned about the pass catchers. I'm not really concerned about the running back room. What I was concerned with was, hey, is it going to be a repeat episode of Jackson Arnold playing behind an offensive line that struggles in the SEC? You fast forward to Tuesday and say, it's hard to see this offensive line not being pretty damn solid with all the experience that they've gained and the healthy competition they're creating. I wouldn't mind seeing one more piece on the offensive line to make sure that's a very solid unit. The pieces are there for Jackson Arnold to have success. And at the end of the day, Hugh Freeze he has hitched his wagon to Jackson Arnold, and he's doing everything in his power to create an offense, create the pieces around Jackson Arnold for him to have success. Hugh Freeze's tenure, to me, is probably going to be determined by the success that Jackson Arnold has. Jackson Arnold commits to Auburn. Walker White, a guy that a lot of Auburn fans were very excited about, transfers out. I think Hugh Freeze probably could have expected that. Saying, all right, we got to win now. I think Jackson Arnold's the quarterback that can do it. Now I got to surround him with the pieces necessary. It's all together for Hugh Freeze. This Auburn roster, we've talked about the defense. I think the defense is going to be just fine. This Auburn offense, to me, is ready to go. And now you got to put it together in the 2024 season. But at the very least, he's making sure the pieces are around Jackson Arnold. And as just a pure college football fan, I've loved Jackson Arnold since his junior year of high school. I'm fired up to see this kid get an opportunity to operate an offense where he has the pieces necessary around him. This is a very similar storyline to Bo Nix going to Auburn, right? Bo Nix or Bo Nix going to Oregon. When Bo Nix was at Auburn, it was a talented quarterback that just didn't have enough pieces around him, didn't have the guys that he around him to be successful. I think you can say the exact same thing for Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma. Now he comes to Auburn, new environment, pieces around him. Let's see if Jackson Arnold can kind of reverse that trend a little bit. We'll close it there. A lot to be excited about, and it doesn't sound like Auburn's done, so we'll continue to update them as they come in. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.